Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlotte here. I'm joined today by the lovely Garineh Serpekian, who is a board-certified health and wellness coach and functional medicine and integrative nutritionist. She empowers ambitious, busy professionals with chronic conditions to break free from limitations that hold them back. She helps them to unlock renewed vitality for boundless energy, laser-sharp mental focus, and a confident self-image. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm well, Charlotte. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm so happy to hear that you have been okay with the current storms that have been happening in the region. Obviously, we were just chatting about that before we logged in, which has been a stressful time for a lot of people in the region, isn't it?
Yes, it was really difficult, and we are not used to natural disasters at this level here in UAE. So it was very difficult, and some people were more affected than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
But definitely also the deja vu of stressful times of COVID and struggling to get some groceries, and it was difficult week.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting you say deja vu. I found out recently that the if you say that backwards, jus d'arrêt, it actually represents seeing something from a different perspective. So even though we see the same thing, we see it from a different perspective. So I wonder if now we've experienced this kind of natural disaster after the pandemic, have we learned from it? This is the key. And I think everybody's really kind of coming together, aren't they?
Yes, definitely. The community is supporting each other any way possible, following instructions from the government. So yeah, definitely lessons learned. And in terms of, homeschooling example, the kids know what to do. They were all, logging in online, chatting with their teachers. I'm like, oh goodness, this sounds, very easy now. It was difficult before, but
Exactly.
now everybody's more resilient and, able to handle such situations.
Exactly. And that ties in beautifully as to what we're going to be speaking about today, because I think we all have a certain capacity for stress, and our resilience can differ from person to person and situation to situation. So today's going to be a really good conversation. So in advance, thank you so much, obviously, for coming on the show. For our listeners that perhaps haven't met you yet, would you like to just give a bit of an intro for us?
All right. Well, my background is actually in IT and telecommunications consultancy, and which was something I really enjoyed before. I feel it's a past life now, but it was very rewarding. And through that corporate work and being a consultant and demands of the work, working 12 hours a day was normal. Travel was just part of the job. And I never thought of, I'm stressed, or overwhelmed. It was just a job. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. I'm young. And being perfectionist didn't help also, because I wanted to achieve and I do my best and prove myself. So it was a good experience until my body started to give me more and more, signals and symptoms that something's not okay. Meanwhile, like 10, 11 years ago, one of my twin daughters had a health condition. And through that experience, I learned how the food and quality of the food impacts our bodies. And changing her diet was enough to resolve her issues within 3 months. So that was a big light bulb moment. So I began the journey of changing the way we eat, living toxin free, and took more and more courses and change the way we live, so improving our health. But still, I wasn't doing that well from the stress perspective and prioritizing myself. So which led to, of course, some burnout and depression, and it was very difficult. So it's like, you suddenly lose passion for anything you're doing in your life. And I had to restart and find, okay, what is my passion now? What is my purpose in life? And because I saw the impact of healthy living, I started to delve into that more and more, taking more certifications and qualifications. And it started helping more family and friends, and then launched my business and to be able to support more people with chronic conditions. And I started that while I was in the corporate world. So I was working part-time at the consultancy company and doing this. And they were very supportive, actually. They let me try out some things in their office, change the pantry options, have a wellness team every week. And my ex-colleagues still, come back to me with any health issues they face. So I appreciate their trust. But then there was a time I reached and I said, okay, that's it. I need to focus full time. So resigned from the corporate company and just focused on my business, which is called Gratifying Wellness. And I work with people, high achievers who really want to improve their chronic conditions, autoimmune conditions, even those who went through cancer treatment and they want to really, improve their health.
Amazing. What a journey. What a journey. So let's start at the beginning of that journey. So I think when you was describing yourself in the role that you was in, and you was like, high achieving, you was passionate, you was wanting to do more, you was actually enjoying your role, you wouldn't have described yourself as being stressed and overwhelmed. I think a lot of people could perhaps relate to that, even though they're listening to a podcast called Stress Relief in Their Pocket. So there's got to be some signals, right? Otherwise they wouldn't be listening. But like a lot of people, I think, are in that heightened state of stress and overwhelm but don't know it. Can you describe like what was that like, and how did it come about for you that you started to realize that maybe there wasn't as much of a balance there as what there could be?
Yes, so that's a very important point, because many people are not aware that they are stressed or how stressed they are, because they don't know the symptoms of stress. And it can start with physical symptoms. And so, for example, from my experience, getting frequent illnesses and every time needing also antibiotics, and I was always feeling tired and fatigued. I had severe headache. My energy was so low, like I needed doses of caffeine to be able to go through the day. And I didn't make the connection that, okay, this is stress and overwhelm causing these symptoms. So I hope those who are listening to the podcast are familiar with the symptoms.
I think for sure they are. For sure they are. I mean, Jonathan, my co-host and co-founder of the Wellness Theory, his journey is very similar to yours in that essence of like leaning into caffeine, experiencing chronic pain actually as well. We've talked on this podcast before about my symptoms of stress that were showing up through kind of like my mental health and kind of chronic negative thinking, overwhelming, intrusive thoughts, heightened emotions, complete emotional overwhelm to the point of not really knowing how I felt, but knew that I was in it. So there's so many facets and so many symptoms. And I think it's becoming more natural to pick up on our own symptoms now, perhaps compared to what it was even only a few years ago. I think thanks to the pandemic somewhat as well. But I think you're right, being aware of the symptoms and actually owning them and saying, I am doing that. That is me. I do recognize myself in that. It's actually a big stepping stone, isn't it, then into finding some sort of resolution.
Exactly. And once you have the awareness, then you will be able to find the right support and the solution that would work for you. And as you mentioned, the symptoms could vary from person to person, and the severity and the frequency. But yeah, it starts with the awareness. Yes.
Oh, so for you then, so you was going about your business, you was enjoying your role, you was achieving well by the sounds of it as well. You've got over 15 years experience in that field as well, I believe. So
yes,
you was very, very experienced, very accomplished, but yet there was something. So what was that tipping point that made you realize? So I assume obviously you become aware of some of the symptoms. What was that tipping point that made you think, oh, something might need to change?
Losing my passion to work. Like I didn't want to go to the office. It was a struggle. But at the same time, I always worked since I was, studying in university, and at that point also I had 3 kids, not just the twins. And the idea of being stay-at-home mom never was like okay for me. I never thought about it. So I had that extra pressure where I need to continue to do well at work and improve myself. Moms can do everything, but if I'm not taking care of myself, how could I be doing everything? So I wasn't enjoying that. And then by chance, I saw an ad for a vision board session. I attended that session, and the idea is that you look at so many pictures and see what you're attracted to, things you're interested in, and it was all about the healthy lifestyle and improving health and the great, nutritious, delicious food, and non-toxic products and all of that, and I thought, okay. I mean, I was able to change my whole life and lifestyle. I could help others do the same. So, and that gave me this really excitement and zest for life. Like, wow, I felt alive again. There is something I can do that makes me happy. And to do that, I needed to put a roadmap of proper qualifications and diplomas, and how to set up a business and all of that. So I finished my integrative nutrition training program, went further and got board certification as a health and wellness coach. I'm a consultant, researcher, and analyst, and I need more and more information. So that's why then I went through the functional medicine training program, and then the mental fitness and all of that, adding all of these qualifications, so that I would be sure. I'm not perfectionist as I used to, but still I want to give my best. So I want to serve my clients the best way possible from all the different angles, holistically. So I got all the certifications and then launched my business, and it was time to do what I meant to.
That's brilliant, to go from this place of feeling like you didn't want to work, right? You didn't want to go to the office in the morning, to now being at this point where, yes, you've had your own personal journey, but actually you've become very specialist at what you do. And I think that's really important, because often I think a lot of the people that are really on a mission in this field have come partly because of their own journey. Sometimes I think when people hear that, they think, oh, is this just based on their own journey? But this isn't. This is based on the qualifications that you have. This is based on the clients that you've worked with, as we do here at Wellness Theory as well. And it's so important to have those two things at play at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate there are many people who went through their personal journeys and they want to share and guide others. But every person, everybody's really unique, and you cannot, just use your experience and then tell others what to do. Exactly. You need to really, be trained and qualified to help others.
Exactly. So this must have been really interesting for you then, to then find that one of your twins has or had a chronic condition. Like, first of all, like, how do you cope with that level of stress? Because that can't have been easy for you to find something like that out about, obviously, one of your children.
Yes, and unfortunately, two of my girls had issues. So one of the twins, what she experienced as a toddler was a hormonal imbalance, hormonal issue, and that was very scary. Like, imagine a 2-year-old having hormonal imbalance, and doing all these hormonal tests and the bone age and all of that. But we were lucky that the pediatrician at that time suggested, try to change into organic chicken and eggs, and avoid soy, and just try. So we were lucky that she gave us that hint, and then I went into research mode, and I changed a lot in the way she was eating, and to reduce the inflammation and bring back the balance into the body. So that worked great. But then my youngest, that was really difficult. So she experienced digestive symptoms, bloating, nausea, vomiting, dehydration because of the vomiting, pain, like extreme pain. And we went from one doctor to the other, to the other, to the other, and all the tests come back. We cannot find anything wrong. It's just emotional. She's stressed. Well, she's 4 years old. Like, what kind of stress is causing all these symptoms? Her maximum stress is revising 3 words to spell. But it was affecting her, of course. I mean, so at that point, we saw a functional medicine doctor. So that was also, again, blessing. And meanwhile, I was studying functional medicine, so I understood. I got the picture, and again, we implemented diet changes for her, and supported her nutritional levels and balanced the hormones, everything naturally. And she's in a great state now. But she knows if she eats gluten, definitely she will react with pain and bloating and headache and the nausea and all of these symptoms. And even though I didn't go further into all the tests needed to diagnose her as a celiac, I know she does have it. because she cannot tolerate anything. And unfortunately, in the summer, we were traveling for a wedding. It was chaos and fun and many family members and lots of food. I didn't have control. She ate gluten a couple of times, and afterwards, the next day, she experienced seizure. So that was again very stressful, very terrifying time as a parent to see your child and what I'm gonna do. Like, what's this? Why is this happening? So, but again, because I have the knowledge and I made the connections and I explained to her, honey, you cannot, you know, compromise with the food options. We stick with gluten. I have gluten-free diet, of course. I have now experience preparing any food any child likes, you know, whether it's dessert or the chicken nuggets or whatever, and I make everything in a healthy way at home, gluten-free. And you know, it's work, but it is worth it to make sure your children are healthy. So when we go to birthday parties, you know, I ask, okay, what's the food going to be served? What kind of a cake is it? Chocolate, vanilla? And I prepare the same at home, and she tastes her food and she's totally fine with it.
You are an absolute rock star for doing that, because like a lot of parents wouldn't, but not because they don't are not well intentioned for their children, but because maybe they don't have the knowledge to be able to do that as well. So it sounds a little bit like to me, and this might not be accurate, so please do correct me. It sounds like one of your perhaps coping mechanisms in stressful times is to learn and to understand. Is that fair to say?
Yes, yes. I need the information. I need to do the research, and I need to be in action mode. You know, I will not freeze. I need to get into action. Yeah.
I like that, because I think there are many other unhealthy coping mechanisms that we can lean into when we're stressed, and that's clearly one that's actually served you. But you did mention that you got led into a bit of a burnout scenario as well as that at some point. Was this after kind of going through that initial diagnosis or the realignment of your healthy living?
Yes, so everything was happening, yeah, at the same time. So I was experiencing burnout, no passion for that. My daughter was experiencing these digestive symptoms, and it took several months, you know, going from one doctor to another to get, you know, some answers. I was also experiencing sunlight allergy. Again, another horrible experience where, you know, I had to hide away from the sun because I couldn't handle even 2 minutes out in the light. With extreme rash. And of course, you know, stress had big impact, but also I did have health challenges since my childhood, which again, no doctor was able to tell me why I'm experiencing this. And they would sometimes dismiss and say, oh, your lab tests are normal, so you're fine. I'm not fine. I don't feel fine. So why I feel this tired all the time, and brain fog was a major symptom for me, and memory issues. So everything was happening at the same time, and I went into the research mode to understand everything like that could affect and cause these symptoms. And because I was already studying the health coaching program, I learned that there is a way, there is a solution, there is the holistic approach, there is, you know, the concept of going to the root causes of disease. So I pulled myself out of that through my learning, and also supported my daughter.
That's brilliant. I think, like, you know, a big part of our vision here is to help people realize when we're healthy and well, we can be a force for good in the world. But that doesn't necessarily mean we become a force for good when we get healthy and well. Actually, a big part of us becoming healthier and feeling better is around how can we, you know, learn this for others? How can we like pay this forward? Because if that original doctor hadn't hinted to you about changing the diet and some lifestyle factors, then who knows what the next line of action would have been, I guess.
Right, because you know, you don't really hear this in the media, or normal doctors, you know, throughout their childhood, teenage years, early adulthood, nobody mentions food as a cause for a disease, for example, or a way to improve health.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's becoming a little bit more widely understood now, which is great. We're moving in the right direction. I believe there's obviously more work to be done, 100%, which is why I love people like yourself and the work that you're doing. And on that, like one of the things that you focus on, or not one of, but there's a few things that you focus on specifically, which is like energy, mental focus, and confidence and self-image. And
Yes.
before we perhaps start to dive into some practical solutions, I'd really love for us to perhaps spend a little bit of time on understanding, like, why are these things so amplified now? Because I think there could well be a link between like your story and what you've been unfolding to these issues.
Yes, because we are living in this world with this physical body for a limited time, and we are supposed to enjoy our life. But you cannot really enjoy and have that vibrant living, energy if you are always tired, if you are not able to focus, if you are not feeling good in your body, and self-image and self-confidence in your body is important. So that's why when I started my business and I called it Gratifying Wellness, it's that satisfying wellness where you're really taking it all in and enjoying life. Yes. And this is something I lacked during, so many years, and I struggled with. And that's why I felt like, okay, no, many people need this, especially now that I focus on those with autoimmune conditions and feeling tired and having brain fog and not trusting their body because of the symptoms. Some would experience sudden diarrhea or bloating or a rash, and they don't understand their body, and they feel also kind of embarrassed, like, because they don't know what will happen.
Yep.
And how they will cope with others. Some people stop socializing because they are not able to trust their body.
Yep.
So this is, maybe advanced severe stages of these symptoms, but I do help many people struggling with these, and it is common.
It is common. It is common. I think, like you said about like brain fog there, and I think that's something, again, whether somebody's got an autoimmune condition or not, I think all of those three areas, energy, focus, and body image, are critical for anyone listening to this. It just, I think, can be exacerbated when there is a specific condition at play. So a common thing now at the moment, topic of conversation, seems to be, well, we can't focus because of things like social media and the way it's all designed, and the fact that it's literally designed to steal our attention, and the way we market, the way kind of capitalism is, and things like that is all playing a part. And I do think there's definitely a layer of that in there. Like, I don't think we can ignore that there are certain things at play in society that are contributing to things like brain fog, or our inability to focus perhaps as sharply as we used to. But I think there are much more systemic issues that we can control. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, definitely. All right. So yes, social media and distractions would affect, but if you are physically healthy and strong, physically and mentally, because they are all connected, then you can make better choices for yourself, and you will not be sucked into that social media addiction or FOMO, or whatever you may call it. And there are many reasons that would affect your energy levels and the focus and the confidence, which not many people are aware of how much these impact. So if I would break it down, definitely we need to start with nutrition. So nutritional insufficiencies is an issue. Many people focus on eating based on calorie without consideration of actual nutritional value of how much vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, amino acids, polyphenols with all the amazing antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties are in that food. So they miss on a lot of nutrients by making poor food choices, or they choose something very quick and processed food, something ready, and they are not aware of, okay, they are mostly void of nutritional value, plus they have all these chemical additives, which adds toxic burden on the body. So your body needs to use the nutrients it has to detox and metabolize these chemicals. So that these contribute to feeling fatigue, of course, and affects your hormonal balance. So maximizing nutrition is very important.
But the way I'm visualizing that as you speak as well is that if you imagine you've got a windshield on a car, and when it's clear, we're focused, we're on it, and there's no fog, like everything's visible. and we feel good, we are typically energized. But then when we start to have like processed foods, sticking just to nutrition here, when we have the processed foods and we make these fast choices without perhaps thinking so deeply, or even going that one step further and educating ourselves on what is good, it's almost like throwing mud on the windshield. And then when we start to eat healthy, it's like the windshield wipers start to go, and now things can become clear again. And I think sometimes it's hard to know what effect the food that we eat has on us immediately. And I think because we don't necessarily always see this like instant feedback to, oh, suddenly I feel clear, we sort of give up a bit too soon. If you see
Yes. Okay. Yes. I hear you. Yes. So when you're making changes into eating healthier, it does take time. So you need to be patient with the process, because you got to this point not within a week or two. You've been abusing the way you eat for years,
Yep.
right? So, and I'm not saying it will take years to improve your health, but it will take a few weeks to see the change. And if you are already in a state of nutritional insufficiencies, and you can do the blood test, and other more functional tests to understand your nutritional levels, then in the beginning you might need certain supplements. And supplements, the idea of it supplements the food you're eating. So you're eating the healthy food, but in the beginning you're giving yourself that boost, so you can feel better fast. And supplements are not meant to be forever.
Exactly. The word is supplement, not substitute.
Yes.
Supplement.
Supplement, not substitute. Exactly. So they need to be for a specific time. You need to monitor your levels again through testing. If you need to continue, if you need a maintenance dose, or you're ready now to stop the supplements. If you're eating healthy, then you will be providing yourself with most. There are certain nutrients where we're not getting enough from our food because of soil depletion. So magnesium is one of these nutrients. So supplementing with magnesium on and off, is something you can do, and it's a safe type of nutrient if you're choosing the right type. Again, there are 8 types of magnesium, so you choose the type that works best for your symptoms and conditions.
There you go. You see, that's already something that I think a lot of people probably wasn't aware of. And I also think there is a bit of a disconnect between people understanding that the nutrients are starting to become limited resource because of what's going on with climate change, right, and the quality of our soil and things like that. So there is a much bigger kind of conversation around nutrition. We're not going to go there today, but I think for anybody that's listening that might be passionate about climate change and those kind of things, maybe start to look at nutrition from that angle and start to look at it through the lens in which you value, I think can be really important. And one of those lenses that we could also look through, given what you specialize in there around body image, is also important, because what we obviously see often, which creates a lot of stress for individuals, is when they are not happy with their body image, and then we move from one almost faddy diet to the next, and without even checking tests and seeing what we actually need first. I'm all for experimenting and learning, understanding, listening to your body. How does it respond to different foods? I think that's fantastic. But when we do it blindly and we don't get our initial set point, I think that can sometimes be a bit disastrous. And I'm speaking from experience here. I've never been too big on like Weight Watchers and things like that necessarily, but I have definitely been spending time obviously in the fitness industry, looking at calorie in, calorie out. We did a body transformation challenge at the back end of last year, my husband and I, and now knowing what we knew that what we was eating probably wasn't fully establishing the nutrients that we need, but it was getting us the performance results that we wanted. So it was just like, okay, what are we choosing here? Are we choosing health? Or are we choosing performance? And we could feel the difference, but only because we knew where we were starting. So I think it's a bit of a trial and error. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's a bit tougher. So doing the diet culture and trying different things and restrictive ways of eating doesn't help, because if you have excess weight issue, there must be a reason your body is holding to that excess weight, or accumulating that. And you will not resolve it with restrictive diets, because even though they may have results temporarily, you will gain that weight back. Or because of the way you chose to eat very restrictively and just calorie focused, then you will lack some nutrients, or you will add on to the inflammation load in the body, the chronic low-grade inflammation, and that will contribute to other diseases and symptoms. And then people think, okay, I'm getting old, that's why I'm experiencing these symptoms, that's why it's difficult to lose weight easily as I used to 5 years ago. But it's just accumulation of inflammation and toxic load on the body. So you need to understand. I don't work with people who have the focus of weight loss only. But my clients will experience weight loss and feel happier with their body, because we will dig into all the elements they need for their health, because ideal weight is simple, natural byproduct of health.
Exactly. And weight loss becomes a beautiful side effect. So get into a healthy weight, not just weight loss, get into a healthy weight that is appropriate.
Exactly. Healthy ideal weight. And it's not the first thing that will happen in our journey, because you need to reduce the inflammation, boost your nutrients, work on your stress, improve your sleep quality, get rid of as much toxin exposure as possible. You do all of this, you will feel the difference in your health, and your body will let go of that excess weight naturally.
Exactly. I'm just so happy because obviously, like, our listeners hear us speaking about this all the time. They hear us speaking to different guests, and I always do like it when somebody else is also talking about it from the same perspective and the same angle. Like, I'm always happy to be taught wrong, being showed that I'm wrong in certain things, and to be challenged. But I think there are just some universal truths that when our stress is reduced, when we're sleeping well, and we're putting nutritious foods into our body, that it's just common knowledge, I would hope now, that we feel better, we look better, we perform better. So let's dive into this from a stress angle then, because I know obviously this is a big factor when it comes to autoimmune, but also quality of life for anyone.
Yes, quality of life and so many of chronic conditions. So again, people think of stress as a mental thing. But stress affects your physical body in so many different ways. If you are in a chronic stress state, it will suppress your immune system. It would mess up with your sex hormones. It would affect your thyroid hormones and how your cell receptors accept the thyroid hormone for energy and metabolism. It would alter your microbiome, the bacterial balance, the good bacteria and bad bacteria in your intestines. So stress, there are many studies that show it would alter the microbiome state, and your 70% of your immune system is in your gut, and so many of the neurotransmitters that affect your mood are also produced in the gut by the good bacteria. And if you are in a constantly stressed state, then you're affecting the microbiome, and you're in a vicious cycle, because that will affect neurotransmitters. Stress alone could lead to insulin resistance and progression to diabetes, even if you are eating the healthiest food ever. But you're not managing your stress response, then that would increase the circulating blood sugar and lead to the insulin resistance. So the impact is so big. And when we make the connections, then that encourages people to take mental health and stress coping seriously, and adopt some strategies that would support them.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think people, and I say people, obviously it's a big generalization, but what do you think is the most common oversights when it comes to stress? What is the general public that don't geek out on this sort of stuff like us? Like, what are they not hearing enough of to really drive home the point that actually being stressed chronically isn't healthy?
So first of all, they don't understand the impact on the physical body and the connections. And stress comes in different forms, whether it's the emotional health, the relationship issue, whether it's a work pressure, financial worries, or even if it's extreme exercise routine without a proper rest and recovery time. So stress forms are different, but they all affect the body in similar way. So people don't understand that. And also, because as mentioned earlier, what you're doing now, not just with food, the impact is not necessarily now. The impact would be in 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So your choices influence your wellness in the future.
Yeah.
And I hope, yeah, people take this seriously.
It
So because the sooner you start making changes, the easier it will be for your body to come back to a state of balance and state of health.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that almost like it is that delayed gratification, isn't it? And it's trusting that this is going to pay off at some point. There's been some really interesting studies done, and I saw some images recently of brain scans of people who meditate for just, I think it's like 5 or 10 minutes a day, what that looked like every year. And it was like minimal every year, but if you fast forward like 10 years and then see the difference of the brain map, it was incredible. Yeah. And that actually motivated me to lean into meditation even more. And it's and I already know this, so sometimes just like dropping images like that in and really looking at what is important to us as individuals, like why are we trying to be healthy in the first place. I think it's really important for us to come back to that. Like, is it to be an amazing parent for your kids? Is it to perform at the highest levels within your career? Is it to just be and have fun and experience the joy of life, like you said at the beginning? How important is that in functional medicine? Like, how much is that connected?
Super, super important. And as a functional medicine health coach, like what we cover in the first session are so many things, but it includes setting your vision and goals. And your vision includes like why you want to improve your symptoms, why you want to get rid of certain health concerns. Because the why is important to motivate you to keep, taking the steps, because it is a journey. It's not a quick solution.
Yep.
But the beautiful thing is that our bodies are designed to seek wellness state. Our bodies have the ability to heal itself. We just need to give it the opportunity with, the right nutrients, the sleep, the movement, and, all of these.
What are some of those practices, if we're getting practical now, like what are some of the highest return activities somebody could do after listening to this? They're thinking, yep, do you know what, I'm sold, I know that this is something important for me. Where do they begin when they have perhaps limited time and limited knowledge?
Okay, so the fastest way to shut off the stress response from the sympathetic nervous system mode, the fight or flight, into the relaxation mode is your breath. So deep breathing, the diaphragmatic breathing, it soothes your vagus nerve, which is the largest nerve you have connecting your gut to your brain. And it is afferent, so 90% of the communication is from the gut to the brain. So deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing has big impact. If you do that for 2 minutes, you will be in a relaxed state. You will be able to make better decisions for the next action step you will take. It will help you look at your stressor or stressful situation from a different perspective, and maybe appreciate there's an opportunity here, there's a learning here, there's maybe create a solution that you can come up with. So if you take that pause with your breath, then that is a quickest way. Another quick way is mindfulness through your senses. So if you can choose one of your senses, like touch, and if you can just rub 2 fingers together and feel all the ridges and sides of your fingertips.
Yeah.
And you're breathing and you just focus on the sensations that you are getting from this touch. And then you move into your hands. Again, just put your awareness and focus on the sensations you are feeling. And then you can move into touching your clothes and fabric or your button and just focus on the sensations. Only 2 minutes. 2 minutes. You can put the timer on your phone. 2 minutes of this mindfulness will put you in a different relaxation state.
I love that so much, because it's so simple, right? It's so simple. It's so simple, and it brings us back to ourselves, doesn't it, in many ways, so we can then be anchored in that sense of resource, so that we can, like you said, come up with perhaps a more serving choice. for whatever's going to happen next. So do you recommend, from your experience, it's 2 minutes anytime during the day? Is it 2 minutes when you feel a symptom show up? Both?
I always suggest to take this in the beginning as a prescription. So you do the breathing or mindfulness practice 3 times a day. So set the time in your phone, in your calendar, so you can do them as a practice.
Yep.
So that whenever you're experiencing the stressful situation, like you are going into a meeting, you are struggling with a deadline for a project, you have a certain situation, you are now used to do the breathing and have that impact, and you can trust your body that it will return to that relaxed state, because you will feel it in your heart rate, in your breathing, in your sweat, so practice initially 3 times a day, and then make it a regular thing. Find times where you stack habits, whenever you're stopping at the traffic light, you do this mindfulness or breathing for, even if it's just half a minute, you just, you get into the habit of doing it.
Yep.
And then whenever you're experiencing stressful or a situation, or you will get into a stressful situation.
Yeah, I like that. Because it is, you start to create that as a habitual pattern in itself, right? And that becomes muscle memory to some extent, and it just becomes our go-to thing to do. And if that's our go-to thing, that can slowly start to become our norm. And we're not saying that you shouldn't be stressed, right? Because there is good stress as well. There's stress that pushes us to do more, be better, to keep us safe as well. And I think it's really important to understand that we're talking about chronic. We're talking about when we are having these symptoms, right? It's when we are experiencing those symptoms often that we need to pay attention, because there are severe consequences if we don't. Yes. What are some of the most common consequences you've seen of ignoring stress? Because sometimes people know they've got symptoms, but they ignore them anyway. And I've been guilty of that in the past as well. So, and probably still guilty today to some extent. So tell us more about the consequences you see.
Flare in digestive symptoms, whether it's severe bloating or constipation or diarrhea, it's different for each person. But the flare, especially if you have autoimmune condition or inflammatory bowel disease, that is big. If you have hypothyroidism, oh goodness, that this stress really impacts your thyroid hormones. So, and if you already have hypothyroidism, then it makes it much worse. Diabetes, I help clients who were eating really in a good way, it wasn't horrible, but because of stress, and they were not able to manage, and they didn't know how to manage their stress response. Yep. It showed up as hypertension and as insulin resistance. So working on the stress helped with those, disease dynamics. My work is really varies. It depends on the client and where they are and what they need. So sometimes the focus is on food, sometimes it's just the stress. Yep. Sometimes we're talking relationships. Sometimes we're talking about, practice for a work interview. So sometimes just sleep. Sometimes it's toxin exposure. Like every client needs something different, but it starts with assessment and having awareness of what is at play in their conditions, in their lifestyle, yep. And what do we need to prioritize, yep. In terms of actions.
I love that. And that's where the functional piece comes into play, doesn't it? Because I think sometimes people can hear functional medicine or integrative nutrition and may not actually know what that is. But it really is looking at somebody holistically, isn't it?
Yes, holistically, mind, body, spirit, and then understanding that the whole body is interconnected. So if there is imbalance in one area, it will show up as symptoms, not necessarily, directly linked to that organ or system. But the whole body is interconnected, and to be healthy, we need to dig deep and understand what are the root causes. And usually it's more than one factor at play that got you into this disease state.
We've spoken a lot about nutrition today, and you've quite rightly said there, there are lots of factors that contribute to certain conditions, but also to our stress and how we then can assimilate that stress. What are perhaps some of the factors that often get overlooked that contribute to stress?
To stress. All right. So again, if you are not physically strong and you don't have enough nutrition, that will affect your stress resilience.
Yeah.
So if you are, you did not eat well and your blood sugar is imbalance and you experience a stressful situation, then definitely you react differently compared to someone who's feeling, well because they ate well.
Yeah.
Sedentary lifestyle is another big factor. So there are studies that show simple walking, 45 minutes a day for 5 days a week for 4 months, led to improvement of symptoms equivalent to using antidepressants.
Yeah.
So just walking alone improves your mental health state, and you don't need antidepressants.
And that's walking alone. I think there's been more studies, haven't there, that have also said if you then double that up with meaningful connection and you walk with somebody that you genuinely feel a connection with, it like doubles the benefits as well, I think.
Exactly. So social connection is another important factor people overlook. We as humans, we are social beings. We need to be part of a group. We need to have a support system. So if you are working on your mental health or physical health, you need to surround yourself with positive, supportive people who got your back, who will be your accountability buddies, keep you motivated to do better and make the changes that you need for your body. So social connection and support system, very important.
Nice. I love that. So we are in an epidemic of loneliness as well, even though we're, more connected than ever before with technology, which we're all hearing. I think loneliness is still a big factor. So I'm happy to hear that you mentioned social connection in that. You mentioned toxic exposure as well. Can you tell us more about that?
Oh, we live in a toxic soup, unfortunately.
Yes, we do.
But we don't. Okay, let's start with something important. You don't need to eliminate your life because if your body is healthy and in a strong state, then it will be able to eliminate many of the toxins we are exposed to. But then the balance is that you need to be eating really healthy and have the nutrients for your body to be able to detox, and also reduce the exposure so that it's not too much burden on your body, whether it's the liver or the intestines or the kidneys, to get rid of the toxins. And when I say toxins, we have chemicals in food. Yep. We have the fresh produce, sprayed with pesticides and herbicides, all these additives and artificial sweeteners and colorings and flavorings and all of that. We have all these personal care products and household cleaning products with so many chemicals that some are carcinogens, some are endorphin disruptors, so they mess up with your hormones, some are neurotoxins, and they are allowed to be used in products because they get the approval based on the dose of that one product. But how many products we are exposed to makes difference. And it also depends on your body genetically, how able you are to detox efficiently.
Yeah, and if we don't have a relatively healthy diet to keep us kind of like offsetting that, then we don't really have a chance, do we? To some extent. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, as blunt as that sounds, that is really the foundation of nutrition and how important it is, isn't it?
Exactly. Nutrients, people need to understand everything that happens in the body. It's a biochemical processes, and they need ingredients, and there will be outputs. So what are the ingredients? It's the nutrients. It's your vitamins, it's your minerals. Yeah. Exactly. Fatty acids, amino acids. So these are the ingredients you need to take in so that every function would work efficiently and properly in the body.
So it's our first line of defense from the toxic chemicals in our atmosphere, in the products that we're using. That doesn't. I was just going to say that doesn't mean if you have a healthy diet. If you have an unhealthy diet, you can. Because you cut out all of the other like cleaning products and perfumes and things like that, right? There's still the chemicals and there's still toxic exposure in the foods that you're eating. So they do, you have to choose your priorities, I think.
Yes. You cannot do just one. You need to work on your health, holistically, and touch on all the aspects of wellness. But in terms of toxin, that some of the easy ways to reduce toxin exposure is to stop drinking from plastic bottles,
Yeah.
water in plastic bottles, because we are ingesting those microplastic. And some studies show that people are ingesting about the size of a credit card in plastic by drinking water from plastic bottles.
Wow, that's amazing.
And plastic really messes up with hormonal balances. So whether it's early puberty, whether it's infertility, whether it's early menopause, and all of these disruptions that happen.
Yeah.
So one easy way, reduce plastic exposure to bottles, maybe food containers. So that's an easy thing you can do. And then from that, you can learn more of how to reduce other toxins.
I think that's a fantastic piece of advice to start with. I actually think you're the first person on the podcast to just explain it in that way. Do you think we ingest the size of a credit card? Like that's insane to think, isn't it? We stopped drinking out of plastic. It probably was about 6 years ago now. And it really wasn't that hard to do. It was just a conscious choice of having an alternative. That was literally it. It doesn't take much effort to really do. And, we've got better, I think, in communities as well. There are like water fountains. There's so many ways that it's been made easy for us as well. And it's good for the planet. Like there's
It's good for the planet.
There's nothing bad about doing that, right? There's nothing attractive about drinking out of a plastic bottle either, is there? There's no gain from that. It's such an easy win. And I think, busy people, they need easy wins.
Easy wins. And it's so easy to find a company to install water filtration under your sink, in your home or in your office, and drink purified water without plastic.
Exactly.
It's an easy way.
We have a Wellwise here. So it's basically plugged in and it's filtered, and the company will send you the filters every month. I'm not on commission from them or anything, but it's been really good for us. And if anybody here, particularly in the UAE, is still drinking out of plastic bottles, I know you can get everything delivered now, but think about the delivery guy, or think about yourself when you go shopping. You have to carry all of that water up as well. It's just pointless. It's completely pointless. There is no benefit whatsoever. And it's not cheaper either, because there are options now that it's actually cheaper to have like a Wellwise or something like that than going and buying the bottled water and things. So yeah, that's a great point. So there's one more thing I want to ask you about as a contributing factor to stress, and particularly autoimmune as well, and that is the role in which past trauma or unresolved emotional experiences has on our well-being, because I think this is something that is very much overlooked, and this is something that I'm so passionate about bringing to the spotlight, because again, I think it's easy to look away. It's easy to not deal with that stuff. It's easier to start drinking out of a different container than plastic than it is to perhaps look at some unresolved emotions. So what role are they playing?
Oh, they play a big, huge role. And for many people, when they are not feeling better with whatever lifestyle changes they tried before, it's important to look into that. And one of the first things I asked my experienced any trauma in the past, and I give them the chance to talk, because my sessions are long, and for many people, it's the first time they share what happened in their childhood, or other experiences they had. And many, they never try to work with a therapist, with a psychologist, to resolve the trauma. They just shove it and ignore it, and they don't think it has an impact. But trauma affects your fascia, affects your spine, affects your health. It's in your subconscious, and it's a stressor, increasing your cortisol level, the stress hormone, and that is having the impact on everything we explained so far. And it's a journey, and you can choose what modality, what type of practitioner you want to use to deal with that. There are psychologists specialized in EMDR technique. You can try medical reflexology, to work on the amygdala and kind of reprogramming to release that stress response, to reduce the stress response. You could try kinesiology, touch for health modality, and balance the energy meridians. Talk therapy, emotional freedom techniques. There are so many ways, but it's important to deal with it. You need to talk about it. You need to realize it had an impact and make the conscious choice to change your story.
Yeah, absolutely. And it plays such an important role in our physical body. And that's one of the things I've loved about our conversation, is the way you've linked it back to the body and our physical experience of it. Because, you know, we started off by saying as well that stress comes in many forms. Sometimes it is emotional, sometimes it is mental. These are all signals. You know, there's no right or wrong way to experience stress. It's just paying attention to the signals. And I think sometimes if it's a mental health issue, it's very easy for the connotation to be, well, it must be because you've experienced some kind of trauma, right? And it actually maybe it isn't. Maybe it is actually more of a physical thing, and maybe your physical symptoms are because of something that's happening more psychologically. So, and I think we have to be open to understanding that there's so much overlap and integration, right, that needs to then happen for us to really be able to heal. And I think that the work that you do really brings that all together really, really nicely.
Yes, again, it's a holistic approach. You need to
Yeah.
give them the opportunity to discuss
Yeah.
the past, the current lifestyle, all aspects of wellness.
Yeah.
And then you see what's, playing a major part in the symptoms and, health issues.
Exactly. Garineh, I think there's been, I sent you ahead of this conversation today a list of questions, and I don't think I even asked you maybe one or two of them that was on there. We've just kind of gone down the rabbit hole, which I absolutely love. But is there anything that you think our listeners need to know before we let them know where they can come and find you and follow your work?
Could you please repeat the question, because the last bit was
Is there anything else you think our listeners need to know?
Okay. Yes.
A lot.
So, especially that, your podcast is for, high achievers and professionals, and, and life is busy. So starting to change your lifestyle to improve your health doesn't have to be all or nothing and then jump from 0 to 180 suddenly. So setting realistic goals is very important. You don't want to overwhelm yourself and stress yourself unnecessarily. I know some people, when I suggest starting your yoga practice to ease their stress, they push themselves too hard doing yoga 5 days a week, and they want to be the best at yoga. But you don't have to be the best. I just want you to grow and experience.
And another common one with that as well is, okay, I'm going to do yoga as the example, is I'm going to go and get qualified in it. I'm going to go and do my 200 hours, and I'm going to go to India. And it's like the extreme. And I think as high performers, I don't think you can relate. I can relate to that. I really can. It's like, okay, I want to know that. I want to understand it inside and out. And I think that's just a tendency that can sometimes backfire on us. So I think it can be a bit of a blind spot. And it's not true for everyone, I don't think, but there'll be a lot of people listening that can relate to that, I think.
Exactly. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. If this is stressing you out, and then no, that is not the way to go. So set realistic goals is important, and be patient with the process, and have a support system. It's very important to have support system, whether they are friends, they are health coaches, functional medicine practitioners, doctors, nutritionists. So have a team supporting you depending on your needs. If maybe a life coach, maybe a therapist. So start with an assessment. So I encourage everyone today, based on our conversation, we touched on so many wellness pillars and factors that affect stress and the physical health. So have time to reflect and assess your lifestyle. Are you eating well? And eating well means, mostly homemade, mostly whole food, a lot of vegetables, quality protein, and healthy fats. Are you sleeping sufficiently? 7 to 9 hours a day, uninterrupted sleep, and do you wake up refreshed? What is your stress level? Give it a score and try to understand what are your stressors. Assess your physical activity. How active you are. What are you doing? Assess your toxic exposure. So have that time to reflect and assess, and prioritize your next action. But again, the next action should be realistic and small steps. Consistent small steps will get you to your wellness goal for sure.
I love that. Brilliant. What a fantastic way to end this conversation. Garineh, you also mentioned that you have obviously lots of resources on your website as well for any of our listeners to come and check out. There's different articles on there, different book recommendations as well, I believe.
Yes, yes, yes. If you could visit www.gratifyingwellness.com, in the resources section, there are references, so book suggestions. And in the articles, there is the article about stress busting diet. There's another article of, out of the box ways to improve your mental health and stress resilience. So check the resources available. And if you have any questions, of course, you can get in touch and yeah, ask anything you want.
I love that so much. Whereabouts on social media can our listeners come and follow you as well? Are you active anywhere in particular?
So I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. So on Instagram, just look for Gratifying Wellness. And yeah, on LinkedIn, my name is Garineh Serpekian. I don't think there are other Garineh Serpekians.
It's a unique name, but a beautiful name, all that. I really love and appreciate everything that you've spoken about today. For our listeners as well, if you want to do a lifestyle health assessment, we've actually got a free one on the wellnesstheory.com as well, where you can go and look at all of those factors. I think the only thing that's missing on there is the toxic exposure. Which is something that we definitely need to add in there, particularly after this conversation. But I think it's a great starting point, and that's what we need, right? Because if we don't know where we are, how do we know where we're going and if we're improving? So thank you so much. And yeah, really appreciate the work you do. Keep doing it. And listeners, make sure you come and follow our work.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Happy to be here. And yeah, hopefully we were able to help some people with future actions.
100%.
If you enjoyed this episode and you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
Then share it with a friend who you think might benefit.
Spread the word. That's how we're going to impact the world, by helping each other.
We appreciate you so much, and as always, unconditional love and wellness to you.